Welcome to the second of Walk and Talk from Simple. I can't even speak now. Welcome to the second Walk and Talk Simple Preacher production from the studios of Anywhere, Anytime, Anyplace. And I happen to be in Paris tonight, which is fantastic. Sounds very glamorous. Speaking from Paris is Andrew. And I'm joined by my good friend Peter, who's going to talk to us tonight just about his spirituality, how he has come to a place or trying to get to a place of some sort of sense of that and some sort of meaning to what that means in his life. And yes, we'll just have a conversation about that. So Peter, tell me, what's spirituality to you? What is it kind of, when you hear that word, what do you think of?
I think of the universe. I think it's an impossible thing to define. It's something that you feel, and I think it's for each person to answer that question in their own way. You know, the traditional religious concepts that I've seen, I don't work for me. Maybe something more towards the Buddhist is maybe like if you pin me down to religion, that would be more where I'm at, maybe. But spirituality, as I understand it, for me, is just feeling connected to the universe, connected to the universality, the power, the energy that flows through the earth, Mother Nature, if you will,
Yes.
feeling connected to that. And I've come to that through trials and tribulations, through great dark times, the long dark night of the soul, etc. But I've also come to it, I came to it more actually when some horrific things have happened in my life. At the time, the immediate time that they happen, I've always found that I'm very much in that, why has this happened? You know, the reactive, you know, that why is this happening to me, etc., etc. But then a few years down the line, I look back and I see how the terrible thing that happened has been a catalyst for so much change or for opportunity. And that's where I see spirituality. I feel like I'm almost like I'm being guided. You know, that there is a force, there is purpose to everything. There is connection. And when you when you put distance between yourself and trauma, there is always a reason for what you went through. And one of the expressions I really love is trust the process, because that really just means trust the universe, trust nature, trust what some people would call God. You know?
Yeah, just to sort of jump in there, Peter, I think you're right. I mean, I have only ever learned in my life through suffering, through pain. And I would define my spirituality as a place of being comfortable in my own skin, being actually able to sit with myself and, you know, not be pulled from here, there, and everywhere by my thoughts, by my feelings, by my emotions, you know, to be able to still my mind. I always call it this 18 inches from my head to my heart, you know. It's the shortest distance, but it's taken me the longest time to travel it.
That absolutely is it. You know, is connecting all of the things that have happened into some sort of bigger picture and realizing that you have just as much right to be here as anybody else, and that actually it is essential that you're here because everybody has their part to play in this ever-moving, ever-changing tapestry. And I think when I'm very connected to the universe, which is what the word I use for it, when I'm feeling very connected to my spirituality, or when I'm feeling it at its most, then I do, as you say, I feel the most comfortable in my own skin. I feel I have a right to exist. All of the demons in my head get pushed aside, etc. Because I get to a place where judgment is no longer, there's no purpose to it. I really feel like part of existence and I have to be here. My part has to be played just the same as everybody else's. So what does it matter if I'm useless at this or great at that, etc., etc. All the things that I might attack myself for, it all falls away because I have purpose with connection with
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think what was coming through when you were speaking was, and I know that therapy has been incredibly useful and really an important part of your journey in terms of trying to make sense of the spaghetti in the head, as I call it. And, you know, I since going to Oxford to study theology, etc., I mean, I would rail against organized religion, you know, and there's a part of me that still does, to be honest. But what I mean by that is that I came to an understanding that, you know, the Bible, the Quran, the Buddhist teachings, you know, all they are is works written by human beings trying to make sense of human beings on the planet, you know, and I call the Bible the first self-help book that's ever been written. And it was just people trying to make sense of where they were at the time, you know, 5,000, 3,000, 4,000, 2,000 years ago, all the stuff that we have labels for now, and coming to a place of being comfortable in our own skin, you know, and with this particular journey that I am on is this our attachment to worldly shiny things and comfort and everything that we associate with being well comfortable, having a place of comfort in the world is actually the one thing that's probably killing us and the planet in the sense of the acquisition for more, the greed, the desire, etc., etc.
I was just going to say, I would say that as I have felt spirituality grow within me, my attachment to worldly objects, as it were, it becomes less and less. Obviously, there are things I have in my life that are very precious to me. There may be stuff that is a memento mori, or there may be little things. You know, I have a Jack Kerouac book, one of his later books. I have a first edition of it. It's very, very precious to me. I found it in a charity shop, makes it even more precious. You know, those sort of things. There are some things that are precious, but generally, you know, I used to really put a lot of store in that sort of thing, and I don't anymore. I love my stuff. I love the things that I have curated over the years, but I know that if I had to walk away for any reason, I could do it. I could absolutely do it because I know that ultimately they don't really sustain me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know, Peter, that you've had some deep, profound loss in your life of your partner when he died. I mean, would you mind talking a little bit about that? And or I don't want to, if it's too painful for you, please just tell me. But I think it would be good to the profound, deep well of feeling.
I think I lost my partner to cancer. And in the final hours, I knew this. I knew there was something more in those final hours when he wasn't communicating anymore. And it was just the two of us in this room. And I knew he wasn't coming back. You know, there wasn't, you know, we were long past the point of no return, you know. And I was just there waiting for his last breath. And those moments were so incredibly precious. To be there as someone leaves the earth it's life-changing stuff. It's really life-changing stuff. And it doesn't actually hurt to talk about it now, because whilst obviously it was incredibly upsetting, obviously, but it was so profound, it was so moving as well. It was so intensely personal. To be honest, I don't know that there's really the right word to describe how it felt. I'm sure there are people that will listen to this that know exactly what I mean. To be there at the moment when you can hold someone's hand as they breathe their last. That is a privilege bestowed upon you by a benevolent God. And
Yes, absolutely.
that comes from me, who, as I said, had been a hardened atheist. And when I say God, I don't mean the man in the sky with a beard, etc., at all. I think if you can be there in that moment, the universe is there with you in that moment. You are connected to everything, almost like you're at a doorway. And it's just mind-blowingly beautiful at the same time as being horrific. And that's all I can say.
Yes, absolutely, Peter. I was at my mother when she died very young. I saw the last sort of puff of smoke come out of her body, the last breath, and particularly with my father, he died 4 years ago, and we've become really good friends. And a very similar thing. I always describe it like the end of E.T. We were walking up to a door hand in hand, and there was only one of us could go through it, and it was him. And he was looking back at me, and in that moment, you're quite right. It is profoundly beautiful, albeit tragic for you with your partner because he was young and relatively young, and it's life taken too soon, but there is a beauty in it as well.
I just thought of something which has then slipped away, but it's such a privilege to be there in that moment. Yeah, it's just such a privilege to be there. Yeah. It transcends pain and sorrow into this moment moments of just such incredible connection and beauty.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think now, to stay on that theme, in that moment of absolute peace, and I mean that's when we spoke earlier about comfort for our souls, that's kind of what I'm trying to get to now, in the sense of that being, if not a permanent state, because I don't think that's possible. I want to be able to not be like a pinball in a pinball machine, being absolutely pinged from one corner to the next by emotion or by feelings or by, just to be calm and have those moments of real tranquility that you just so eloquently spoke about there at the end of life situation.
It's in that moment it's one of those times where you are entirely sure of what your role is. There's no doubt. You leave ego at the door. You're just stripped bare to everything gone. You're just stood there or sat there, with holding someone's hand as they leave. Everything else is gone. It's not about the individual at that moment. It's about the person that's dying. It's completely their story at that point. You're literally there just to hold their hand and to be there and to be whatever support you, because I didn't know what he could or couldn't hear or could or couldn't feel, and all I could do was hold his hand and let him know that I was there. And that's it.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head there. There's no place for ego in those moments. And actually, when we're talking about comfort for our souls and being at peace and being able to sit within my own skin, there's really no place for ego then. Ego and peace don't seem to be able to, they're not good bedfellows, I don't think.
No, they're really not. We've discussed ego quite a bit recently. And yeah, of course, the ego is a necessary part of who we are. But to have some kind of tether on the bloody thing is quite a good idea. And also to have a bit of humility to know when if you're feeling a certain way about something, how dented is your ego? How much of your reaction is down to just ego? I think particularly in a situation where maybe somebody has been nasty or whatever, or you're in an argumentative situation. You definitely at that point is, if you can keep the ego down, things will become. And I think being with someone when they pass away is like, you've got to take the lesson from that like you just don't matter in that moment. It's you're the privilege to be in the room, etc. And it's really not about you at all.
Exactly.
But there is something there for you should you choose to take it, and that's the precious gift of being allowed to sit with that person.
And I think you're so right there, to get out of the way. You can't, it's not about you. It's, when my dad was dying, it's not about me. Well, what about me, Dad? You're leaving me. It's not about that selfish me, and I've been talking about it a lot recently, only wounded healers can heal.
Mm-hmm.
And your gift in that moment, you became a wounded healer and you were healing. You were healing him and sending him on his way. And, it's only because we have been wounded, we've dived into our wounds, we know what they are, and we can start to heal then. But then when I show my wounds to other people, they can identify with that and also heal. My wounds will heal you, and your wounds will heal me.
And to be able to show your wounds to other people requires a certain removal of ego.
Yes.
And those sort of experiences help you to remove that ego. It starts to get easier to define what ego is, and therefore how to step aside from it, or reduce it at the least, and be able to lay yourself bare in front of the world. Because also, if you lay yourself bare, a lot of people might say, oh, if you open yourself up in that way, you can get hurt. And it's like, no, your ego can get hurt. You can't get hurt. It's just your goddamn ego. If you keep
Absolutely.
it, and also if it's just, if you look at your ego like your heart, broken hearts heal. So do dented egos, really, you can take a bash or two,
Absolutely.
And that's something that, you kind of learn as well on the other side of losing someone. I realized that it's just a broken heart. And as Dolly Parton said, the wonderful Dolly Parton said, you might want to die, but you won't.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Peter, that's probably a good place to leave it.
On the philosopher Dolly Parton.
Absolutely. We all love Dolly. We all love Dolly. Peter, it's been absolutely beautiful to spend some time with you tonight and to see you. And
And
I've missed our Saturday mornings together, but they will come again very soon.
Oh yes, yeah. Just have yourself a wonderful time.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for your time tonight.
Okay.
Thank you, Peter.
Take
Bye,
care.
bye, bye, bye.